So here we are again. Project Moon has once again gotten into controversy. Let's go ahead and talk about it, especially because it is literally a 1-year anniversary since the last one. And in case you don't know what's going on, well, don't worry. I, Saphera the Noma, aka Saph, because I know my name sounds a little pretentious at times, but that's okay. We are gonna go ahead and we are going to talk about it. This is gonna be like a semi-scripted video of sorts. I'm currently flubbing this first initial part, but that's just because I didn't want to bother making an intro. I apologize if I do sound scripted. I tried making it very casual, but alas, things do be like this. So for the person who may not know what Project Moon is and what this controversy is all about, well, let me give you a little bit of a rundown. What is Project Moon? Well, Project Moon is an indie Korean game studio and has done games such as Lobotomy Corporation, Library of Runa, and the topic of today, Limbus Company. By the way, Limbus Company is a free gacha game that you can play on both Steam and mobile, and that is by far, personally, one of the best gacha games in my opinion because it does everything wrong about your typical gacha games. No over-sexualized characters, no super predatory gacha, you literally don't even need a poll to get characters because you can grind resources to get said characters, as well as literally get a Limbillion free currency for just playing through the story, doing weeklies, weekly patches, and generous event rewards. I could ramble on forever about why I like Limbus, but maybe that'll be for another day. Though feel free to leave in the comments below if you'd like to hear my autistic rant about it, because I would love to make a video about why I think Limbus Company is a great gacha game. For not being a gacha game, really. Anyway, as I said earlier, there is a controversy and it all dates back to the summer 2023 incident. I'll briefly go over it through my highly westernized perspective, but if you want a more in-depth perspective on this situation along with historical facts that go over Korean gender war, I highly recommend you to check out Moon's channel's video called Gacha Drama and the Korean Gender War. Link will be in the description. Also, for anyone who gets named in this video, please do not send them any harassment, please and thank you. This is merely to keep y'all updated since this game and franchise have been my hyperfixation as of, well, a year. Anyway, basically a summer event was going to come to Limbus Company in 2023 where the characters were going to a beach. Usually in gacha games, summer events are full of scantily clad characters, typically waifus, though sometimes husbandos, looking at you Grand Blue Fantasy, where they are in bikinis or swimming trunks, or I guess in Grand Blue case, completely butt naked, but anyway, and usually posing provocatively for the player. So since Limbus Company is a gacha game and it's free and easy to access, had brought in more eyes and more attention to the franchise as of late, there were many who are relatively new to the Project Moon world who may not understand that, oh hey, this dark fictional world where violence and death is often normal may not be the best idea to give the character essentially swimsuit wear. What we did wind up was getting 2 event characters, one being Sinclair, a cute blonde twink who has on shorts and an open jacket but no underlying shirt with a choker, and Ishmael, who's in a skin-tight wetsuit. Now, a wetsuit isn't anything as cute as a bikini swimsuit, but it can still be considered nice because, well, it's skin tight and really outlines certain features. But a group of upset male fans in South Korea on the equivalent of a Korean 4chan site were so mad about it that they had thought this design was made by a radical feminist woman. It turned out, no. It was designed and drawn by a man, so they instead focused their eyes to anyone that was female and could be radical anyway, just because they were in too deep now and wanted to set their anger loose. Unfortunately, they had found a cutscene artist by the name Val Mori, who had retweeted about feminist-leaning ideologies years before she even joined Project Moon's team. Those tweets were deleted before she joined as an artist, but they managed to dig up the history regardless. During this, Project Moon hastily announced a statement and caused a wave of chaos throughout the fandom as speculations and misinformation were thrown about. At the time, many were worried Valmori was fired as a direct response and attempt to appease these unreasonable fans, and many cried out that this is misogyny to cast aside a wonderful artist with a heavily stylized but cool art style to appeal to these hateful people. It came about that even in an association by the name of Project Moon User Association, or PMUA, or PM User Association, was established to essentially boycott and call out Project Moon for their supposed misogyny. During all this, 2 artists who worked on webcomics for Project Moon suddenly spoke out, feeling uneasy from the perceived misogyny rumors that were sweeping their country. One artist drew the Wonderlab comic, to which this comic was asked to be removed from Project Moon's publication, and it subsequently was respected and done so. The other artist drew for the webcomic Leviathan, which is a prequel to events of Limbus Company and goes over more of the history behind the character Virgilius and the Vroom Vroom bus driver Charon. The artist for Leviathan had spoken out around early August of 2023 about her working conditions under Project Moon and how she had health issues and was told, "Did you not know it would end up like this?" by the CEO, at least according to Google Translate. She did tweet that there were talks about canceling the serialization of the comic after episode 2 or 3, but she toughed it out to 11 chapters. The webcomic was supposed to be about 15 pages per chapter, though from the first episode, she did arbitrarily increase the length, presumably for the excitement or overzealousness, and it was supposed to release every 2 weeks. There were talks before she stepped away as the webcomic artist to do the work monthly instead, but then the pages would be doubled to 30 pages, to which she declined for her own health. So, all these tweets led people to believe that Project Moon was run by a rude CEO who didn't care about their artists and their health and worked them like dogs, essentially. However, the situation was ultimately, for the most part, resolved when it was confirmed that Valmori was, in fact, not fired against her will, but rather that she left of her own accord because of the harassment. So, Project Moon chose to be vague during the incident and subsequently took a lot of negative press in an attempt to keep protecting her. The CEO, Kim ji-hoon, apologizes many times in this statement on September of 2023, knowing now how their statements came across and how it affects their fans, even their overseas fans. He resolves to better protect Project Moon and their employees and will take more legal measures against associations or groups that were formed to spread hate and political agendas against them, aka basically take the PM User Association group to court. And since then, a lot of trust was slowly returned to what remained of the fan base that held on to hope that it was all a misunderstanding. Of course, there were some losses to the fandom, as many artists and supporters left during this entire incident, some of which can still be felt today compared to what it looked like in its heyday. And there were many who still mourn the loss of Valmori's beautiful art going forward in the story. But as the months went on, the fandom slowly healed, still bearing scars, but was still thriving and enjoying the content. Valmori even returned on her Instagram and posts her art with her distinctive style there. And personally, I feel like the director of Project Moon himself was definitely being more proactive with keeping their international fan base in the loop. There's been a few times when statements got released in Korean first, and then shortly after a translation for the Japanese audience and English audience is released. Even during the recent Project Moon livestream that went over the plans going forward for the remainder of 2024 for Olympus Company and their team, the announcement said it was going to be Korean only. But yet, even still, there were translations in both Japanese and English for each little statement blurb. They really, honestly, didn't need to do that, but to me it shows that they care very much for their fans, including the international audience. So it was all a shock to everyone when, on the anniversary of Project Moon's untimely vague announcement of Valmori's departure from summer of 2023, aka July 25th, the PM User Association reared its head once more, but this time rebranded as the Korean Game Consumer Society, or GCS, with this statement. Dear supporters, this is the Korean Game Consumer Society, KGCS. Today marks 1 year since Project Moon terminated an employee's contract due to their alignment with misogynistic ideological policing. However, Project Moon has not reflected on their wrongful actions. Instead, they are currently engaged in unfair legal disputes against 2 webtoon artists who collaborated with them. Mimi, the artist of Wonderlab, sought to confirm that the copyright of her webtoon belonged solely to her. Project Moon did not recognize her copyright, so our association funded Mimi's application for a civil lawsuit to prevent the infringement of her intellectual property IP rights. Mangyu, the artist of Leviathan, disclosed the poor working conditions at Project Moon to the public. Rather than reflecting and apologizing to come up with measures, Project Moon filed a lawsuit demanding 3 million won, around 2,500 USD, in compensation and the nullification of the artist's copyright. Our association is fully supporting the legal costs and necessary manpower for both artists. However, due to the prolonged litigation in our ongoing projects, our association's expenditures have increased more than expected, leading to a shortage of financial resources. Therefore, we are initiating a special fundraising campaign to support victims of ideological policing and related project expenses. Our goal is 10 million won. Our association will not forget Project Moon's ideological policing. We will continue to do our best to create a game culture that everyone can enjoy and ensure that no more victims of ideological policing arise. Thank you for all your support. However, my issue with this statement is that I could have sworn that PM User Association conceded that no, quote, misogynistic ideological policing was done.
That same day, the Young-E Youth Union published its own statement, retracting its prior statements denouncing Project Moon's unfair dismissal and all of its protests against their investors. They had allegedly confirmed via communications with Project Moon that Velmori was not, in fact, unjustly fired, and that Project Moon did indeed take the appropriate actions. In other words, no labor laws were allegedly broken.
So, in my opinion, this is low-key suspect. Before I continue with my opinions though, here's Project Moon's statement on the Limbus Company Twitter. And it's gonna be a long one, so buckle in. Notice, regarding cessation and publicization for the comic parts of Leviathan and copyright disputes. Hello, this is Kim Ji-hoon, director at Project Moon. I am here to inform you regarding the cessation of publicization of the comic parts of Leviathan. Around December of 2023, we received a certificate of contents letter from the artist of Wonderlab and the artist of Leviathan. It was delivered to us via the PM User Association, Game Consumer Society, a group with whom we had been in legal conflict until recently. In summary, it stated that Project Moon should forfeit all rights for Wonderlab and Leviathan comics, including our copyright. To be more specific, it was a final notice that directed us to withdraw all forms of bestowment, consent, and agreement of our rights and authorities regarding Wonderlab and Leviathan. Moreover, each artist has registered themselves to the Korea Copyright Commission without any prior consultation with Project Moon as the copyright holder of each comic. After the first certificate of contents, we exchanged 3 responses regarding its content. However, after we sent them our conversation and work records, their law firm did not give us any response, nor did they take any of the measures requested by Project Moon. Later, the Game Consumer Society and Wonderlab filed a civil copyright suit against Project Moon. We will proceed with the copyright conflict suit to clarify the vague state of the copyright conflict. Therefore, the comic parts of Leviathan will no longer be publicized. I decided that writing this notice became necessary because I believed that a proactive response was needed to the certificate of contents and the unilateral decision to register the copyrighted material to the Korean Copyright Commission. I would like to inform you that we will proceed with a copyright suit to have Wonderlab and Leviathan recognized as works made for hire under Project Moon. The contents below are small but detailed information that I can share explaining the context of the circumstances. Please be aware that the following content may be of significant length. One of the points made in the certificate of contents states as follows. Because Project Moon did not directly participate in the creation of the comics, the works belong solely to each artist, and it is unjust for Project Moon to exercise any right over them. However, over the duration of the comics serialization, their contracts with Project Moon were in the form of contractual employment. The contract also states that Project Moon would compensate them in monthly salaries. As long as they were receiving salaries from Project Moon, they would be working as Project Moon's employees, creating comics as works made for hire. This information was clearly specified in the recruitment post for Leviathan comic artists. It is also clear that they were informed of this detail beforehand. In this job posting with Google Translate, it does state that as a company employee, the webtoon is serialized based on the world of project inquiries, so it belongs to the copyright of the corporation. I'm assuming it's supposed to be Project Moon, but instead of Project Inquiries, but okay. Your name will be displayed as a co-creator. You can use it as a portfolio later. This will be done in the form of employment by the company for commercial use and continuous use of IP. We also have records of direct participation and feedback, such as planning and review, from Project Moon staff and myself in creating the comic. Based on the contract, they worked on the comic as an employee of the company, and the company paid them salaries exceeding 3 million Korean won monthly, regardless of the comic's serialization status as per the terms of the contract. Also, over the course of Leviathan's serialization, they received the identical percentage of bonuses that the employees of our development team received. In other words, both artists created the comic as Project Moon staff under an employment relationship, and they have been paid, as stipulated in their contracts, as Project Moon's employees. I intend to take legal action as I find it unacceptable that they claim to be the sole copyright owners of the comics and are demanding that Project Moon relinquish all associated rights over the works. In a separate issue, Leviathan's artists posted online that they received a unilateral decision and notice from the Project Moon that the serialization of Leviathan would be seized. The following is my response to that claim. Contrary to what was said, the artist contacted Project Moon, saying that they no longer believed that they could continue with the serialization of Leviathan. We accepted this and urgently shifted the series to a form of a web novel serialization instead, as we were developing Limbus Company. We have reached an agreement with the artist based on our respect for them that, to make sure that they receive as little fallout as possible from this process, Project Moon would make a notice taking the majority of the blame when it came to the cessation of serialization. The artist has expressed gratitude for that decision, the contents of which are still in the records. While there are inadequacies in our preparation for Leviathan, we would like to clarify that we have not made a unilateral decision and notice to the artist that the serialization of Leviathan would be seized. The records of this conversation will be submitted to the court in the process. Wonderlab's artist mentioned that they heard the news that we had made a request not to make Leviathan PC as Wonderlab was. And in case you don't know what this means, we're going to take a quick detour. Wonderlab is a webcomic made by Mimi, as stated earlier, and it features characters that basically have no confirmed gender at all. And in my opinion, it was kind of super duper gay. But that's simply because you have these three characters and definitely one of them is in love with like another one. And then like, I don't know, it just became like a weird little polycule thing. But when I say weird, I mean like in all the best ways. Like, I'm going to be real. It was really good. The main PC part is simply that no character in Wonderlab has any confirmed gender at all. We gave them a response regarding this claim around August of last year in our email exchange with the artist of Wonderlab. Below is an excerpt from our email exchange in August of 2023. I would like to carefully address your statement. I heard that my style was too distinct and did not match the direction that the company wished to go in. I also heard that the company, Project Moon, has requested future comics to be less PC. It must have been very distressing and disturbing as an artist to hear something like that, though I am not certain how or where you may have heard that suggestion from. If you would allow me to make a careful guess, back when we were discussing the direction for Wonderlab, we had agreed, per your request, to not specify or reveal the genders of each character featured in Wonderlab. We decided, however, that characters would need a description and depiction of gender in our subsequent works. It was because while we tried our utmost to ensure the narratives or treatment of characters did not vary depending on their gender, it was rare for us to not specify a character's gender. That is why we considered specifying each character's gender in our next project, but our intention may have been incorrectly relayed in the process. We have records of planning and discussing details about abnormalities featured in Wonderlab as well. Back in 2020, when our company was operating at a smaller scale, our work feedback was conducted via a group chat on Kakao Talk. The records of work and conversations still remain. We intend to submit the entirety of its contents to court as well. I sincerely apologize to our fans for causing them concern due to non-game related issues such as copyright. We refrained from directly addressing the artist's online posts as long as we could in hopes of resolving this misunderstanding someday. However, when we received the certificate of contents instructing us to forfeit all rights regarding these materials, we decided that a response was necessary. Project Moon will actively meet this copyright dispute and will take appropriate measures upon its conclusion. They also provided screenshot evidence, which to me appears like Discord, and basically showing proof of their involvement with the creation and art direction of Leviathan with Mongyu, and another screenshot here with Google Translate on the image shows that there is discussion about Mongyu's health and how they can transition to making her workload easier, and also informing her beforehand about the announcement they'd make about the brief pause. Mongyu herself, according to Google Translate again, also confirmed and asked to amend it to specify that she needs an additional week and that the episode 3 release date would be February 4th of 2022. So I have a lot of opinions, and pretty much the rest of this video is gonna be expressing my personal thoughts and feelings. If you don't like that, feel free to click off. That's all the facts I'm throwing at you for the most part. Except for the part where I'm gonna talk about where you can support the artist, which is in the description, by the way. Highly recommend that. Anyway, first, Kim Ji-hoon has earnestly learned from their previous blunders, in my opinion. Not only have they released translations for their international fans in a timely manner, compared to last year's massive F-up where they just remained silent for like a whole month, but they are pretty transparent about what is going on and what is being addressed. Now, onto the situation at hand. My opinion is that, while I do believe artists should have copyright over their art itself, I also think that a lot of that tends to get relinquished and given up when working and contracted under a company. And in general, they do not technically own the IP of Project Moon's world or characters, only the art they drew for it. As stated in Project Moon's job listing, these artists are considered employees under Project Moon, even if working remotely, and given a fair wage of 3 million won of salary per month, which was also negotiable. Now, 3 million won does come out to around $2,167 according to Google, which is not at all what the GCS said, it being $2,500. And to some of us, that may seem really low for a monthly wage. However, this seems to be around the ballpark of a moderate and fair wage from my Google searches, especially since this work is capable to be done remotely and does not require regular commuting, only telecommunication. Wages in South Korea apparently seem to be dependent on city location, but I suppose that is normal considering, even here in the States, California wages and cost of living are significantly different than, say, I don't know, a Midwest state in the middle of nowhere. Also, no offense to anyone in the Midwest when I say that. But continuing on, the fact these artists decide to copyright their work entirely and are asking Project Moon to just give it up to them in its entirety is actually just baffling to me. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate on Korean copyright law or even copyright law in general, since I am not a lawyer, but my gut feeling and general exposures to stuff on the news and such, I do not think these artists have a case, really. Project Moon owns this IP and the world behind them, and these artists were considered employees working under them. Pretty much as far as employment goes, usually whatever you work under said employment goes directly to the company when you leave, whether of your own volition or by firing. It's just normal business practices. Also, these characters, with maybe the exception of Wonderlab, but specifically for Leviathan, were made by Project Moon and still used in Limbus Company to this day. I can consider Wonderlab to be an acceptable loss of sorts if need be, but Leviathan in particular is a bit of a special case, since it ties so integrally into Limbus Company's story. Virgilius is a vital character, both being the representation of Virgil from Dante's Inferno, which is what Limbus Company overall is being based on, but especially for the main character Dante, who, well, needs Virgil to be their guide, at least for the beginning. Honestly, I kind of forgot what happened in the book. But ultimately, Virgilius is important, and since Leviathan is all about Virgilius and his past and his motivations, it's kinda effed up to just nuke all that and try to own the rights to it when characters don't actually belong to the artist. Now, I don't want no hate on the artists, just to emphasize. I personally believe they are being misled and possibly even manipulated to an extent by the GCS. The group dedicated to basically harassing Project Moon for over a year now because they got some political agenda or whatnot. And also the same group that kept asking for donations, but none of that money ever went directly to support the artist Valmori, and instead were burned on protest trucks and who knows what else. That group wasn't even trustworthy since near the end, prior to being sued, they were basically demanding that the records of Valmori's departure be leaked, despite claiming they were trying to vouch for Valmori's rights, which explicitly would go against her wishes to remain out of the situation entirely. But anyway, that group is still hating on Project Moon and is now dragging and encouraging the Wonderlab and Leviathan artists into legal issues with copyright law involved, when honestly I don't think they have any legs to stand on. The only fault I'll give here is Project Moon for not copyrighting these comics themselves, since it is technically their IP. The only reason these artists could copyright these works in the first place is because, according to the rumors anyway, Project Moon did not file for these copyrights at the time. However, we have to remember here, Project Moon is an indie team. They may have a gacha game and may have generated millions in revenue, but they are no bigger than 45 staff members on the development team and 7 on their Ham Ham Pang Pang sandwich restaurant, and where they often have Project Moon related events for the fans over there. This is not some evil large corporation where there's like some hidden agenda to find the best way to dig into your wallet and steal your money, unlike some other gacha games I know. But literally, a small team that wants to do whatever they want. Like, let's be for real. The CEO did a live stream the other day and first had their face on webcam, and then just suddenly decided to switch over to being a VTuber. Wait, what's their current team right now? Oh my god! Holy shit! A VTuber! And there were so many random scribbles, circles, and Control+Z spam on a literal PowerPoint presentation that like, bruh, this is as scuff and as indie as a supposed business can ever be, let's be real. So to me, I feel like Project Moon is truly an indie team that has their ambitions set high, and now they're just navigating the unfortunate situation of having possible negative press on them and having to deal with the consequences of that, including legal stuff. This might not have been something that they thought they'd ever have to deal with 6 years ago when Lobotomy Corporation was released, nor something they ever foresaw prior to releasing Olympus Company. All this legal mumbo-jumbo probably slipped under the cracks, also because they might have trusted the artists to not do such a malicious-seeming thing, such as copyrighting their works despite not owning the IP itself. However, that incident from summer of 2023 still lingers and still led to bitter resentment of perceived injustices, and that has all culminated into a year anniversary of more bullshit, essentially. Personally, I side with Project Moon on this one. This is not because I hate artists. Anyone who watched my previous videos know that I support and respect artists as they are the backbones of VTubers, which I am. And apparently Kim Ji-hoon himself. Still not getting over that one. But I side with Project Moon simply because I think the copyright does ultimately belong to them in this case. They are a business who did business things like hire an employee and had them do contracted work under them and were paid a fair salary. This seems like a no-brainer to me. But somehow, some people are still blinded with rage over perceived and debunked allegations of misogyny from over a year ago that they can't seem to see the facts presented before them for this particular case. It just shows to me how many people have not had the displeasure of working for a company or business. And wow, what an innocent life you must lead. When will my youthful ignorance return? And also, if those people from a year ago are still hanging around and harping on this issue, my only thought to you is, bruh, you got way too much time on your hands. Personally, if I don't agree with a company, I just stop playing the game or ingesting the media and go find something else. Or at the very least, I wouldn't give them any money if I really had to keep playing. But it's already been a year and some people are still harping on the same stuff from a year ago that most people have moved on from because it's, well, been sorted out. There's not much that complaining and telling people to keep sucking CEO PP even though you are also hung up in sucking GCS's PP too, and this doesn't lead to any productive manner whatsoever. And if you did want to be productive, you are either welcome to give Project Moon more money if you support them, or in GCS's cases, give the money directly to the artists. Not that group. That group has proven again and again that they are untrustworthy because they have been hypocritical, chose to reignite the flames on the anniversaries of Velmori's untimely departure even though she was already moving on from the incident, and clearly do not have the funds to handle a legal battle that they most likely instigated. So, instead, support the artist directly if you truly wish to shove it to Project Moon and their supporters. Velmori has announced on her Instagram recently that she has opened up a Patreon. There, she will share work-in-progress art, sketches, and even have commissions open for members only. Both the Wonderlab and Leviathan artists have a Marple shop, which looks to be their own artworks and merchandise that they sell on this Korean site. All these links to all these artists and their pages will be directly at the top of the description. Please, I once again ask that if you must give anyone money to give a middle finger to Project Moon or simply because you want to support these artists, please direct it towards the artists themselves and the artist only. Do not give it to a political group that will not be transparent about how they use the money and will ultimately only use that money to only fuel their political agenda. If you like the artist, say fuck it to the politics, screw the middleman, and go support the artist directly. Thank you. I understand those that sympathize with the artist and who believe that they may have really been mistreated or slighted in any regard by Project Moon or Kim Ji-hoon himself. I get wanting to advocate for better work practices or more protection for their employees. However, in this particular situation, I really don't think any of these can be resolved over a copyright dispute, nor do I think this is the appropriate time to bring those up as the focus. Those are entirely different issues, literally apples and oranges. And at the same time, I'm not even sure if it's anything Project Moon will ever fully make a statement on, since they want to remain relatively neutral and to really just make whatever they want in the direction they want. Personally, I want to believe that the director has made true to his promise to do better and better protect his employees. Only time will tell, of course, but he's definitely made it better to at least be more transparent with the fans, whether you like it or think it's unprofessional as hell. Anyway, that's all I really gotta say. I think a lot of these blunders were made because Project Moon is simply as indie as they go. Just an indie with a profitable gacha game and a single director who's learning as he goes. Is Kim Ji-hoon perfect? No, not at all. But in my opinion, he's learning to both stand his ground and still be grateful for their community and to be better transparent about what their wishes and goals are. I do think he is much better suited as just a man doing his directing work rather than also a PR person and giving out statements on behalf of the whole company and therefore their image, but he seems a little stubborn in his ways, but not necessarily malicious or ill intent. Just a dude with a lot of creativity passions and wanting to see them done, and not so much a prim and proper businessman that, everyone would expect from a company. I also believe that this GCS group, aka the PM User Association, really needs to stop bothering Project Moon so much. I got tired of their shit near the end as it was cleared up Valmori was not fired, and I'm tired they're reigniting their dumb that was last year's drama. I just sincerely hope that many fans have learned from this incident a year ago and to implore each other to think about the actual legal facts in this case, not the emotional appeal for ideologies that are unrelated to a copyright dispute. Either way, there is not much us as the fans can do anyway besides just wait and see if anything comes out of this case. In the best case scenario, no lasting damage is done to either party, artists included. In the worst case scenario, well, I suppose it truly depends what side of the controversy you are on. Until then, please do not bother anyone involved, and if you must infight, at least keep the involved parties, artists included, out of your spat. I'm sure this is stressful for everyone. And again, please consider financially supporting the artists if you are able to. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching all this way, and if you must be loud in the comments, then please at least be respectful to each other and everyone. Do not give me a headache as I read through everything, please and thank you. Also, many thanks to the Gremlins and Fancy Gremlins for helping keep the lights on today. If you want to be a member too, feel free to hit that join button. Till next time, everyone. Good night, and keep it vibin'. Oh, also, have Kim Ji-hoon singing Unravel as his VTuber persona. Anyway, bye!
教えてよ、教えてよ、その日よ。僕の中に誰がいるの